Thank you, Club 31, and let me thank Seth Patterson for that introduction, and let me thank the president of this venerable institution, Club 31, Allison Clark Hardesty. Thank you very much for the invitation to come and speak to you. This is something that I look forward to on an annual basis. The Rotary, as you all know, plays such a critical role in the heart and the soul of our community, and the difference you make, taking on the issues, standing in the gap for the most vulnerable all over the world. We owe you a great deal of thank you, of gratitude, and I'm honored to be an honorary member. I was eating my lunch when they said all Rotarians stand up, and I continued to sit down because I forgot I was an honorary member. So to the new members, I stand up now to applaud you. I see in the audience County Court Judge Gary Jackson. It's a pleasure to see you as well. To all of you, I hope you're doing well. These visits that I get a chance to do now are a lot of fun. It's fun to come talk about good stuff happening in Denver. We're all sitting in a city right now that is literally leading the nation in so many areas, so many metrics that the media keeps coming out with these, and this is not local media, national media, coming out with so many different designations about Denver, Colorado. And we'll talk about a few of those today, and I want to hopefully open up for Q&A today where you can answer some questions. But let me hasten to some of the things that we've been working on and some of the things that I think you might be interested in knowing is going on in your city. First of all, Denver led the nation into the recession. This recession hit us pretty hard, as you know, in the fall of 2008. But we also led the nation out of the recession. And not only did we walk out of the recession, Denver is like a cannon coming out of the cannon gun into this new economy. We have firmly established ourselves as a real player in the global economy. Job growth and unemployment rates are leading the nation with regards to how well we're doing. Our unemployment now is down below 6%, which is awesome. Awesome. And compared to where we were just 2 years ago, I'm telling you, this is where all Rotarians standing up and celebrating. We've been able to attract new businesses to our city. Just last week, I was honored to shake the hand of the chairman and CEO of a company called Layer 3 that's going to revolutionize how you and I receive television or cable signals into our homes. Companies like Namjet and Personal Capital have established Denver as their global headquarters. It seems like every day we're being named as a top city for growth, for small businesses, for millennials, a top city to start a career, to raise a family, to begin your business. I don't know if you all know this or not, but last year over 1,000 small businesses started here in Denver, Colorado. The millennials in particular are coming here and are establishing this, bringing with them this entrepreneurial and innovative spirit that is contagious, and it's not only attracting their peers, but it is attracting investment in small businesses. One of the things that we understand is that in order to be a globally competitive city, we have to be globally connected. And oftentimes people ask me, how are you maintaining your energy with the stuff that we've done? And I hadn't realized what they were asking until I sat down one day and realized that in the first 3 years as mayor of the city, I've now been in 8 different international countries, or international companies, listen to that, 8 different foreign countries, working to establish our connectivity into those countries. As a result, we've been able to complete the agreement to start 7 different nonstop international flights into our city. Of course, the big tuna that we all wanted and we got was Tokyo, which has left Denver. It's flying like at 80% loads out of the city, and it's attracting, connecting flights or connecting passengers from the Midwest, from the Montanas and Idahos, and from the South Dakotas, or the Dakotas, from Kansas and Missouri, Oklahoma. Folks are coming into Denver to connect with, to connect into Tokyo. But we've also have our Reykjavik flight. You all might recall when I came to you a year ago, and I said, I remember when the DIA staff came to me and said, Mayor, we want to start a nonstop flight to Reykjavik, Iceland. And you can finish the deal if you would make a phone call to Iceland Air and eclipse this deal. And I'm listening to them in almost stunned silence, thinking to myself, and I actually shouldn't say to myself because I said it out loud to them. My reply went something like, who the hell wants to fly to Reykjavik, Iceland? I'm sitting here, I'm racking my brain like, why are we working hard to secure this flight to Reykjavik, Iceland? Well, I don't know if anyone in this room have ever been to Reykjavik? Isn't it a phenomenal city? It is unbelievable. And let me tell you something. Only thing it's done is increase travel between Denver and Europe by 4,500%. That's all it's done. People are flying through Reykjavik to get to Paris, to London, to Amsterdam, to Copenhagen. And so our connectivity is expanding, and that Reykjavik flight has been absolutely tremendous. So we recognize that in order to be globally competitive, we must be globally connected. And so we've worked to establish those flights, and we've worked to create markets so that our business industries and our trades can go in and create opportunity for themselves as well as for our local economy. Now we're growing, we're attracting, retaining quality jobs in Denver. We're increasing funding for business incentives to attract companies here. Since becoming mayor, I've increased our incentive fund fourfold, and each year it has resulted in job growth in the city with new companies relocating. Last year, we completed our retail study, which is something I wanted to do from day one, walking into the office. We never really had a plan for how we attract and where we establish retail in our city. We have identified through this retail study that over $100 million of sales taxes leaves our city because we haven't been aggressive to attract retail to Denver. And so now we have a plan. And now we're going after very bullishly efforts to attract new retail to our city and to stop the leakage. As I started out, we're sitting in one of the hottest markets in the nation for startups and small businesses. We have been called the #1 startup and small business capital of the nation so far, been established that for the last couple years. This is all part of what we call our Jumpstart economic strategy to deepen our bench. What we found during the recession is that cities who that really focused on growing and nurturing their small businesses are those that were able to withstand the volatility of the recession better than those of us who had not. Meaning that we not only went after big businesses and created new opportunities there, but they built a deeper bench with their smaller and mid-sized companies, something that we had not really focused on in Denver. And so when I say to you today that over 1,000 small businesses got started in our city, that is no small statement. It is about deepening our bench. It's about creating that ecosystem that is built to help us withstand the volatility of the economic cycles, which we know will come. The slowdown will occur. And we've got to make sure that those small businesses are working with the moderate and big-sized businesses to help us sustain our employment base as well as our economic strengthening. Let me hasten on to the finished statement, then we'll do Q&A. One of the big things that we understand that as I traveled around the world talking about Denver for business and for relocation, there isn't a company anywhere in the world who doesn't ask, tell us about your education system. Tell us about how your children are being educated and how our employees will be proud to put their kids in their schools, your schools. I don't think there's anything more important as a city than for us to continue along the path we have been as far as growing our economic base, but also preparing the future workers of this city, of this state, and certainly of this nation. Our schools simply have got to perform in making sure our children are prepared to compete in the 21st century. And so as mayor, in a city where I don't control schools, that I'm literally a partner and an observer of schools, I had to bring a philosophy that we're not going to compromise or abdicate what we believe is the ultimate responsibility of government, and that is to make sure that good schools exist in every neighborhood in the city, that every child in the city has access to quality schools, good teachers, and good principals. And so we've created a platform to work very closely with the superintendent and the Board of Education to make sure that they understand and that we are a partner for them, and that we'll do everything we can to make sure that they have tools necessary to help prepare that workforce. Whenever it comes down to the point where the the employers of this city and state don't believe that we're able to fulfill our obligation, that they have a pipeline of prepared workforce, we're in trouble. We're done. And that's why it's so important for us to make sure those schools stand ready to produce, and that none of us in this room or in this city ever tolerate failing schools anywhere for any child. And we move with a great deal of speed and efficiency to correct failing schools when we find them. And so commitment that I have to the public, that I've made to this public, that as mayor we will always call a spade, and when a school isn't working, we got to remember that there are kids sitting in that school today that need us to move with a great deal of speed to correct it. And so we will. There's a lot ahead in this city right now. We've got great development on base, ready to get to home plate so they can take a swing. The National Western Center, the corridor of opportunity leading us from downtown to DIA, fast tracks coming in, the Aerotropolis. We're in mediation right now with our neighbors so that we can get that deal done and begin our development in and around the airport. This city stands at a place that we haven't stood in a long time, and that is to prepare to be transformative around the world, to reset our economic base and our opportunities that's built on globalism and built on being able to compete around the world. And that's why we must do the little things with our schools, make sure our police department is one that we all respect and we're all proud of. I got to tell you that for the first time in 5 years last year, we hired a police officer. Not only did we hire a police officer, we hired 110 new Denver police officers. And this year we'll hire another 110 Denver police officers so that we can continue to make places like downtown, lower downtown, and Ballpark and our neighborhoods unique but safe. And we create a police department that is bent and focused on prevention. And that we also are able to take on new industries like marijuana with a great deal of regulation and strict enforcement, and that we protect the quality of life in our neighborhoods as well as our children. With those things working together, this will be a city, no doubt in my mind, that the rest of the world will continue to pay attention to as one of the great emerging cities of the 21st century. So I'm going to stop there, and let's go Q&A. We have time? Okay, great. We have questions around the room already.
I'm going to start off real quick. If you could comment a little bit more on the development at DIA and our relationships with Commerce City and Adams County.
Sure.
I was at a Commerce City Rotary Club a year or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
You and Sean Ford, Mayor Ford, spoke, and we'll look forward to just getting an update.
Absolutely. We are in mediation right now. As you know, in 1988, when we went to build the new airport, then Mayor Federico Pena signed an intergovernmental agreement which basically outlined that the development in the airport would be strictly for aviation purposes. 25 years later, the purpose of what is considered aviation purposes has changed. Airports around the world have a very broad engagement of what aviation purposes are about, and airport cities, what they're called, around the airport have popped up. These are not necessarily residential. These are commercial and businesses that thrive because they want to be near. They're thriving, but they want to be near airports because they're moving products and people. And so we began to embark upon that effort here in Denver. That agreement, however, we have to make sure that the new trends, that everybody interprets it the same. And so what you may have read in a paper about neighboring cities saying, wait, we have an agreement, that's not supposed to happen. We want to honor that. We want to honor their understanding and hopefully come up with a mutual understanding, and that's what the mediation is all about right now. My hope is, and goal and vision is that someday we will work collaboratively as a region to develop around the airport, and we can all benefit by bringing jobs and new investment, not only in terms of jobs and companies, but infrastructure around the airport for everyone, including Commerce City, Aurora, Adams County, and our neighboring communities. Good question. Yes?
Thank you for
Hello,
coming.
sir.
I got this on.
You're on.
2 questions. One, could you focus a little more on social issues in this town? I hear all the good news about economic, but twofold. One, do you think you could get behind an initiative to take minimum wage to, say, 12? You don't need to go to 15 along with Seattle, but at least help us get to maybe 12, which is a $24,000 annual salary?
I think the point you make with your social issues as well as minimum wage is to recognize that if we're going to be a world-class city where everyone matters, we must recognize that there's some people who are not necessarily benefiting from the growth, the economic growth, and we got to have opportunities to help create that pathway for them, right? Not a handout, but a hand up for folks. And so with regards to social issues, when I talk about social issues, I believe that a strong economic system helps with people, but we need to make sure that there are employment and training opportunities, which we are partnering with community colleges and nonprofit organizations to develop more for along here. I mean, both working with City Council and the Chamber to do that. Educational programs. I think the most effective role for city government that does not control schools is what I call the other side of that school door. So we made sure that children, no matter where they live or what their economic status is, had free access to our rec centers and our pools and after-school programming and summer camps, so we capture summertime loss. That we have an aggressive homeless program that goes out and moves people from the streets into housing, but also to mental health, which is an area that I brought in because I think we missed that. That no matter how many jobs or housing opportunities we present, if someone is struggling with mental health challenges, drug and alcohol addiction as well, sometimes dual diagnosis, none of that's going to help them whatsoever. And so we need to get deeper into the opportunities around mental health, and we're doing that now. In fact, we have a task force working to help us design that. With regards to the minimum wage, first of all, I applaud what Seattle did with regards to the community-based process. And in fact, I just left the meeting with my policy and communications team about this. I'll be in Seattle tomorrow. I'm still paying off the debt to the Super Bowl. I got to go and do a day of service down there. And thank you, Denver Broncos. But I'll tell you, Mayor Murray did this right. He pulled together the community. He pulled together the business community. He set them down. They did an analysis of what it costs to live in their city, and together they went forward with a minimum wage increase. I think that's the model in which we need to follow, or any city looking to do that. How do we got to sit the business community, we got to sit the grassroots community, the labor community down, and say, let's have a conversation about what's best for all workers in the city, for our businesses, and for our economic system in the city. And absolutely, I'm all for that every day so that we can come up with the best process for Denver. And I think they gave us a model on how to do that in Seattle.
Thank you. Just very quickly, the second piece is in the issue of homeless. I've been working with a family of 5 and find the system very, very difficult to navigate. There's not a lot of coordination. But specifically, the question is, an opportunity strikes. As you know, Emily Griffith, DPS owned, right across the street, will be vacating the administrative offices and the classrooms. For at least the next year, it'll be vacant. There's a group of us who would like to think that the city and DPS could open up that space for more homeless initiatives. What do you think, Mayor?
I'll tell you, we're on the street now, or in the community, looking for new opportunities to place programs targeting the homeless. The area you're talking about, the challenge is that there's a zoning law in place that allows only so many homeless in a district to be established. That area is inundated right now. And so we would have to look outside that district. We found a couple places that we're working on. I hope one of them works, because it will help us do what you just went to the heart of, and that is we're uncoordinated. We need a centralized intake process. We need to know whenever a person who is challenged with homelessness walks into any program that they've already been put into the system, and they don't have to continue to tell their story over and over again and delaying them necessary time, where unnecessary use of resources, but make sure that we can track them and that we can keep them in the system. And hopefully the ideal is to move them out of the system. And so let's diagnose whatever the challenge is right the first time. And if it's mental health, let's get them mental health services. If it's drug or alcohol addiction, let's get them into the proper treatment programs. Or if it's just episodic, where they've lost a job, hard on their luck, they've divorced, whatever, let's make sure we address those issues, because right now, being uncoordinated, we're not doing a very good job at it. So you went straight to the heart of it. Yes?
Mayor, thanks for being here.
Absolutely.
It's very exciting to hear your vision that you share with us. I think gives us an awareness of where we're going and what we're doing. You had mentioned that there's 1,000 new jobs that came into Denver.
1,000 new companies, small
1,000 new
business
companies.
started.
So small business. So
Yeah.
how did you make that happen? What economic incentives did you give? for the small businesses that want to come to Denver.
Sure.
How are you helping that?
So the benchmark is the creation of jobs. So there were not necessarily incentives for every small business that got started in Denver. What we wanted to do was to create the environment to where the ecosystem supported the entrepreneur and supported the innovation. And if they wanted to get started, we have technical assistance to help them start their business. Not necessarily financial assistance, but technical assistance. What forms you must file, what taxes you must pay, and how best to go about getting accounting support, banking support, things of that nature. But we also did a couple of things. Let me tell you, we have one of the, well, actually, people come from all over the country now to be a part of what we call a startup week. And it's they come to Denver to showcase their business, their small businesses. But it's primarily for our local businesses and entrepreneurs. You will have 20,000 people in Denver to take a look at small businesses. And small businesses for 1 week. So a week long of activities and programs. They get to come in contact with people who provide technical assistance and services to them. And it's a phenomenal effort, and it's a great time. It happens in the fall, and I encourage you to take a look at that. We also have, through that technical assistance, we have a capital matrix, first time it's ever been created in Colorado. This is all of our Office of Economic Development. And he identified all the venture capitalists, all the angel investors, all the mezzanine investors who are in Colorado lending money, who they lend to, and small businesses have attracted themselves to that. And they have gone out and tried to get money. So we've kind of created the tools and the platform, and they take it from there. Yes?
Mr. Hancock, I know that you were not in favor of recreational marijuana.
Right.
Neither am I. But as I travel around the country, I find that Colorado is the laughing stock of the country in many, many parts of the country. Is there any way that you would be able or willing to lead a fight to get that law repealed?
So the framework of this is to 66% of Denverites voted to support legalized recreational marijuana. And what we've done is that the people have spoken was to create, we had 3 guiding principles: regulation, enforcement, education. As a result, I think the rollout has been pretty smooth. I'll be honest with you, I think in the next 5 to 7 years, let's say 10, marijuana will be legalized across the nation. There are 22 states today that have the question on their ballots for November. And I'm hoping that all 22 of them pass. Not because I support recreational marijuana, but because I believe that's the trend we're going to, and we need to take the attention off of Colorado. And I think once it passes and we're no longer the only one out there, the attention will dissipate from Colorado, and it won't be as much focus on us anymore. I can tell you I've done more interviews than I care to mention with Al Jazeera, with C-SPAN, CNN, CNBC News. I don't want to talk about pot anymore. I'd rather talk about the nonstop flights to Tokyo. I'd rather talk about the great schools that's, things that are going on in the city, the great economic renaissance that's occurring in our city. But here's the bottom line to your point, sir. I went to Amsterdam last month. And for the record, I didn't go to Amsterdam to check out the weed and the other industries. We went to Amsterdam because the airport city that this gentleman asked me about back here, their airport city is the international gym. They're the model on how to do it. So I flew into Schiphol because I was in London for business and said, let's go to Amsterdam and look at their airport city. Let's tour it. But as we were coming in, we have to notify the ambassador and the consul generals. So the mayor found out I was coming in and asked if I would meet with him about marijuana. And so we did, and we toured their marijuana sites. And then we sat down with their chief of police, their director of safety, their marijuana policy person, and we had a great conversation. You know what happened? They gave us some advice. Don't let this industry get away from you, okay? We are spending an inordinate amount of money and human resources trying to recapture our brand, whatever that brand is. I've always known Amsterdam for what Amsterdam is, what you know it as and what I know it as. But they're fighting to keep that, right, to get that back. And the bottom line is that Amsterdam more than likely will never get that back, whatever it is. But we know what our brand is: active lifestyle, outdoors, mountains, the heartbeat of the Rocky Mountain West. We're not marijuana. And so as mayor, I don't believe it'll be repealed in Colorado, but what I can do in this city is have the most restrictive guidelines for implementation and don't bend. Be consistent in your enforcement, don't bend. When you see it being violated, move in and take care of it, don't bend. and work with the industry, which, by the way, has been a tremendous partner in helping us frame how we do this. So the answer to your question is not necessarily, the answer to your question is no. I don't think it'll be repealed. I think what's going to happen is it's going to go across the nation, and the attention will come off Colorado. Just on Colorado. Yes.
Mayor Hancock, thanks for coming again. I think that the reason why our city's growing so well is from your leadership, and I appreciate that and wanted to applaud you for that.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
The thing I wanted to ask you about was you mentioned about a bunch of lists that Denver's on and Colorado continues to be on. One of the lists that we're running to the top of is traffic.
Yeah.
And I know that with Fast Track's implementation being 3 to 4 years out before it's finished, what's the next step? Because I think Fast Track should have happened about 10 years ago.
Yeah, I agree. I think with Fast Tracks coming in, the rest of it is that the other modals that you want to increase. Bicycling. You want to encourage people to walk. The interesting thing, Colorado's growing. No, I take that back. The city of Denver is growing by 10,000 people a decade. Okay? And the biggest population moving in Colorado are millennials, and then it misses my generation, Generation X, and then we get more of your baby boomers and on into your aging community. And they're coming, but they have a different. It's not about cars for them. It is about transit. It is about bicycles for the millennials, and then the baby boomers want to walk. They want to be more mobile with their feet, be pedestrians, and so they're moving downtown, and are moving close to downtown to where they're close to a lot of the amenities. So the key is to continue to promote the multimodalism that I believe will ultimately define our city and our region going forward, along with Fast Tracks. Yeah. How you doing, man? Oh, I'm sorry. Here you are. Okay. I saw it over here.
Yes, Mayor. Two things. One, last time you were here and you had a debate with Romer, I gave you my Rotary coin. Do you still have that?
I still have it. It's on my desk.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The other thing, I wanted to find out how the spaceport to the east of DIA is coming.
The spaceport east of DIA will be decided ultimately by the FAA administrator. He was just in Denver. We had a chance to talk about it briefly. They're trying to decide what guidelines they will use to determine where the spaceport can be and what governing principles they'll have with it. The reality is that they don't want anything to interfere with flight patterns in and out of DIA. And I understand that, and I think our neighbors understand that, so they're going to help give us some guidance on that. So we're waiting for their determination. Okay. We have one over here, one back here, and then we have a hand here.
Mr. Mayor, thank you again for being here. And I'm sorry, I'm going to ask you a question that you don't want to talk about. You've just said you didn't. But I wanted to ask a follow-up question about the more positive aspects of the recreational marijuana. So I know that the first 6 months are not even in yet, and that the estimates for tax revenues are going to be blown out of the water. I want to hear what you're thinking of maybe spending some of that extra revenue on.
You know, we're going to spend it, first of all, we are looking at some estimates. We're pretty much trending right where we thought we would trend with regards to marijuana. And you know, people saw the $1 million in sales the first day, and you begin to see kind of this. We knew that would occur, and so we didn't want to jump too far out with estimates and what we would do with the tax revenue. But we said from day one, regulation, enforcement, and education. And so those departments that are dealing with marijuana, one way or the other, whether they're inspecting facilities, whether the firefighters have to go inspect and also protect, police officers or business units that deal with licensing and excise, all those units have additional needs now, environmental health, and they've submitted their needs to us. And you're going to hear in a couple of days, I was just looking at an advisory statement on how we're going to allocate those dollars, at least based on the first 6 months of revenue that we've seen. And so I can guarantee you that the needs, or at least perceived needs by the department, far exceed what we are receiving from the tax revenue. Way in the back. Okay?
Mr. Mayor, you've been very innovative and a terrific leader for the Denver, but I have a question for you with regards to new innovation. Mm-hmm. Denver Kids has an incredible record of graduating children who get involved with Denver Kids, and we have a horrible record of graduation in our public schools, which you've improved with your leadership. What are the chances that under your leadership you will expand some kind of programs or effort to help Denver kids, for example, to receive more money so they can take on more kids under their tutelage, and also Colorado Uplift, which has similar significant success in mentoring in getting 90 to 95% graduation rates. And there are 3 or 4 other programs like that.
Yeah.
And I'm saying that from a very, very selfish perspective.
Yeah.
I recruit in from out of state, and I also hire from in-state. And one of the big problems we have is the Denver public school system is not attractive enough for some of the people we like to bring in, and they go out into the suburbs. So what are the chances with some of these really good programs that are volunteer, philanthropic programs with terrific results that you can give the support to them or help them increase the number of students that they can work with and get graduation at a higher level?
That's a good question. In fall 2013, I had an initiative on the ballot, Initiative 2A. That's wrong. It was the fall of 2012. Initiative 2A passed overwhelmingly by the people of Denver, 73%, which basically lifted our tabor limitations in the city of Denver. Those resources we have used to do a couple things. One was the program I alluded to just a minute ago, where we created free recreation centers and pools for the kids, okay? 47,000 Denver kids signed up for what we call the My Denver Card. The second area that we really focused on was how do we partner with some of those CBOs or community-based organizations you just talked about, Colorado Youth at Risk and others that you just alluded to, who are training our kids, UCOR, all of them, to be more gainfully employed as well as have marketable skills for the rest of their lives. Because, this is going to shock some of you all, but we have to be more practical. Not every child in our city can go to college, okay? Not because they don't have the ability to as far as capacity. Some of them don't want to. And we don't have the seats for them all to go to college or the resources for them to get there. And so some of them want to go on and start careers. So these organizations help us do that. But what we did, we set aside a pot of money that we actually issue in grants so we can support their efforts in training some of these kids. Now, we can't do it by ourselves, but that's why we have the Denver Strategic Partnership Office that helps us to identify for those nonprofits some of the philanthropic money to help them to get stronger. So we've supported that office by putting more staff in there, and we put away some more money to give grants out to help more kids get into those programs. Okay? Are we done with questions? Thank you all so very much.